I made it up the stairs, so that was my first goal. Want to thank Chairman Allgood for everything he's done since July 1st, and for the entire Georgia Ports Authority Board for their support and entrusting me with the Port Authority, which is an incredible place filled with incredible people. I'm going to tell you a quick story before I begin. I am from New York, and I do tend to speak quickly. So the team that helped me put this presentation together said, Griff, you tend to talk really fast, so slow it down. I said, okay, got it. So we came here last night, we practiced it, we ran through it, and they said, Griff, it's way too slow, you need to speed it up a little bit. So I don't know if this thing's gonna be a half hour or 3 hours, but just let's enjoy the ride. All right, today I'm gonna talk about the Georgia ports and our mission as an economic engine. We're gonna walk through our facilities and our terminals. I'm going to take you into the industry at large and walk through the industry dynamics that we are at play right now. And then we'll talk about our expansion plans, how we're going to handle it. And then we'll talk about the future next steps. And we have a special rollout, something we call the GPA MidAmerican Ark. So let's get started. Economic engine. As Jimmy noted, the Terry College School of Business does a study every couple of years, and they have told us that the Georgia ports touches 370,000 jobs throughout the state. But here locally in the 4-county area, we hit 40,000, and that's incredible. But you know what? That does not happen without the great leadership of Governor Nathan Deal, Chris Riley, Chris Carr and GDED. We got Trip Tollison here at CETA, and all the economic authorities throughout the state. So, we are a winning team. We have all the things that we need in place. And that's not just me saying this. This week, Governor Deal released the fact that Georgia, again, for the 3rd year in a row, was named the best state in which to do business. Let's give Georgia a round of applause. I am so fired up right now, I'm going to run off the stage. Listen, look at the numbers on the sheet right here. $4.4 billion invested in the state this year. There's nobody else doing that, folks. So, port-related jobs this year, 3,800 new jobs, $570 million of investment. Those jobs are in warehousing, fulfillment centers, distribution facilities. I've got a list of them behind me. 3,800 really isn't the full number because some of them are still TBD, to be determined. But I thought what we'd do is take you through a couple of highlights over the last year. And we're going to start with Dollar General, a longtime partner of Georgia and the Georgia ports, a major customer of ours. In May, they announced that they were going to build a 1 million square foot warehouse up in Butts County, 500 new jobs. Folks, Dollar General has 700 stores in Georgia alone, 5,000 employees in Georgia. This warehouse will service their stores throughout the entire Southeast. Variety Wholesalers, just a week or two ago again, Governor Deal and GDED announced that a North Carolina-based company whose distribution facilities are based in North Carolina will now expand outward into other locations, and they selected Georgia for their home. 1.4 million square feet will be built in the next year up in Coweta County to service their 360 stores in 16 different states. Sathavia, you may not recognize this brand, but you may have bought one of their rugs or home furnishings under the name of Martha Stewart or Ralph Lauren. They have a 250 square foot facility up on Jimmy DeLoach. They're going to build another one, 500,000 square feet, 100 new jobs. That'll be done by the end of this year. One of the things that GPA has done phenomenally over the last few years are export refrigerated products. We have been trying to crack into the chilled goods, the perishables, citrus, blueberries coming from South America, the west coast of South America. Well, guess what? PortFresh today is building a 100,000 square foot facility on Jimmy DeLoach Parkway. And they believe that the Georgia Ports Authority and Georgia would become a gateway for perishable goods. And that lines up perfectly with our refrigerated cargo that we export. Our next highlight is Nordic, another longtime Georgia partner. They've been based in Atlanta 3 years ago. They built a 400,000 square foot facility to move export poultry, frozen, cold storage, frozen poultry. Guess what? In just 3 years, they expanded their facility, and it's done by 200,000 square feet, another 50%, 70 jobs. What I want to do right now is give just a big round of applause for all those companies that came to Georgia and for all of the economic development authorities and for the state for their help in making this happen. Let's acknowledge that right now. We have a really big announcement for you, and I had nothing to do with it. But I get to stand up here and share this with you, and I'm really excited about it. There's a company here that we sat with last night at dinner, and they walked us through a process that they went through to select the location for their next major distribution facility. And it was exhaustive, and they looked at a lot of locations. And what I heard them say was, in every major category, every criteria, Georgia came out on top. And that's why Floor & Decor is going to build a 1.4 million square foot warehouse right here in Pooler. The facility will be expanded in the next 2 to 3 years by 1.1 million square feet. Folks, by 2019, this will be among the largest warehouse facilities in the area. And I want to acknowledge those people that we were talking to last night. Vincent West, the founder of Floor & Decor and board member, and Brian Robbins, the executive vice president and chief supply chain officer, who's sitting right over here with Trip Tollison. Well done, thank you much, great job. And I really would be remiss if I didn't right now take the opportunity to just say CETA had a lot of folks were involved in this, but CETA had a lot to do with it, and I know personally that Trip worked very hard to make this happen. So great job on that, thank you. And they will use this warehouse to service their 68 stores through 32 markets. So welcome to Georgia, we look forward to working with you. And by the way, Floor & Decor is already a major customer of ours, and they're just gonna grow. In the last year, I believe they've grown by 100% through our port. So this is good stuff how could I not be pumped up, right? All right, so listen. With great power comes great responsibility. The great power is we are the #2 absorption rate market right here in Savannah in the country as a percentage of square foot in the market. That was told to us by Colliers. So that's a great story. You can see over the last 6, 7 years, we have been absorbing the warehouse space. We're down to 1.93% availability. Only 1% above 100,000 square feet. Folks, this is a call to action. We need investors, private investment, we need developers, spec warehouse space. And I'll acknowledge CenterPoint and Clayco have recently announced they will invest in spec space. That is not enough. We need more. We have more activity at the ports with folks coming to see us, talk to us about doing business. The last thing that we want to happen is miss opportunities because we don't have the space available. And there is no excuse. 21,000 acres of fully entitled land ready to go. And this is the last time I'm going to mention New York ever on this stage. But being from New York, I know that that is not an easy thing to find in the world today. And we've got it. And it is prime real estate. So now I'm going to take you through our terminals. A lot of exciting things to talk about. The Georgia ports consist of 5 deep water terminals. We'll start down in Colonel's Island, where we have the second largest automobile port, largest in acreage. And then we move over to Mayor's Point, a small niche break bulk terminal where we handle forest products on break bulk ships. East River Terminal, we lease to Logistec. who is a Montreal-based stevedore, great partner for the GPA. And they primarily move agri-bulk products, but their number one is wood chips to Europe as renewable fuels. Shifting back up here to Savannah, we've got Ocean Terminal, 208 acres of break bulk and ro-ro capacity. We've got automobiles, crude rubber, iron and steel, you name it, it goes through the port. And then Garden City is the single largest container terminal in North America. And if Cliff Pyron was standing up here, he'd tell you the largest in the Western Hemisphere. Right, Cliff? So a recap of total volumes in tonnage, kind of a standard metric we can use across the board. We have 4 primary units, 31 million tons last year, basically flat with the year prior. Obviously, the big component is containers, but you move down to bulk tons, agri-bulk and liquid bulk, soybean meal and palm oil, things like this. Ro-ro, the cars and heavy machinery, Caterpillar, John Deere and JCB, and then the break bulk tons we just discussed. So a great diversified portfolio at the Georgia ports. I want to touch very briefly on Ocean Terminal. Iron and steel, markets over capacity, we did take a hit there. But to highlight some of the good things that are happening, lumber, crude rubber, servicing all of those new tire manufacturers setting up in the Southeast, a big part of our business. And then wood pulp, we've got a new account, great job by the trade development team to solidify this account, growing us by 73%. Ocean Terminal also handles export cars as well as Colonel's Island, so we thought we'd group them together and tell you that story. Right here in Ocean Terminal, we handle Mercedes-Benz, BMW, Nissan, Toyota, new account. They're up 23%, and that is a record number for Ocean Terminal. Now, down in Brunswick, took a step back. It is not growth that hurt us. There was some shifting business that happened about a year and a half ago. But I can tell you the organic growth has been fantastic. Mercedes exported a record number of automobiles. Kia is by far our largest customer, and they are with us here today. And we are grateful for their business across the boards, both in containers and the cars themselves. But a total of 663,000 automobiles, which is incredible. And to think, we're going to talk a little bit about our expansion capability, and it is quite impressive. So now we're going to switch over to Garden City Terminal. You look at this chart, and you see in 2015, we had massive growth of 17%. That was about 500,000 TEUs, 20-foot equivalent units. That was massive. And that happened primarily because of a West Coast labor challenge and contract negotiation. The business shifted to us. It shifted to us in a bigger way than any other port. We had more diversion cargo come to Savannah than anywhere else. Now, we expected that diversion cargo to return, and some of it did. But we retained a great deal more than what we had planned for, 24%. And when you think about growing by 17% and then giving a little bit back, 1.6, it shows how not greedy we are. But at the end of the day, what you want to see in this chart is in 2014, we were 3.1 million TEUs. 2016, 3.6. That trend is a 15% growth over 2 years, which is phenomenal. 2 years in a row with 3.6 million TEUs. Great stuff. Another really positive story is our intermodal. 6 years of record growth. 387,000 containers handled to the rail and from the rail last year. Folks, that's more than some container terminals do total, and we're doing that on the rail. We couldn't do it without our partners in the railroads, CSX and Norfolk Southern, and the Genesee and Wyoming as a short line. This is going to drive some of our key strategy moving forward because we think we have something that we can really exploit here, and we can grow tremendously. So these are all numbers, and they're fine. They're big picture numbers. But you kind of got to go in. Just bear with me as we tap into a week in the life of the Georgia Ports Authority. We are 1,100 strong. There's 1,100 employees at the Georgia ports, but it takes a lot more than that to make it happen. Picked out a record week in March. where we did, in one day, 10,500 vessel lifts in a day, 10,400 gate moves in one day. And guess what? No congestion. We handled it. If we annualized that week, it translated into 4.5 million TEUs. So how do we do it? We do it on the backs of the International Longshoremen's Association. And I want to take one moment here to recognize a few people in the room. We got Alan Robb sitting right behind the head table, who is the president of the South Atlantic District. I was with him yesterday, we met. I feel bad for this guy. His phone never stopped ringing. He is one hard-working individual. And then we go to the local leadership. Got Willie Seymour, we all know what he's done. Tommy Stokes, heading up 1414. Ricky DeLoach, can't see him, room's too dark. And Kerry Scott. Thank you guys and your teams for everything that you do to help make it happen every day. There's one group that I hadn't heard mentioned here. I've been coming to these for 6 years now, that I'm going to take a moment to recognize. Behind all of that, there is the Georgia Stevedore Association. And guys like Brad Ziegler, Luke Doremus, John Walsh, Derek Miles at Ceres, SSA, and Ports America, they do a phenomenal job. They're the best in the business, and we couldn't do it without them. Thank you, guys. So now we're going to go big picture again. Let's look back at 10 years of growth. These are all the major ports on the East Coast, Gulf, and West Coast. And Alan, I'm sorry, I know you're in Houston. Houston has a really good market. They've got 3% growth. Great job. But does anybody want to take a guess where Savannah is? 7%. The fastest growing U.S. port in the nation by more than twice as much. Again, this is a team. It's everybody in this room, and we recognize that. So thank you for that. So now we're going to take a step into the industry dynamics and talk about a couple big things that are happening in the industry. Chairman Allgood led a delegation of us, crazy people, down to Panama in June. And we were there to witness the transiting of the first Neo-Panamax service vessel through the canal on June 26th, the Costco, picture of it here, the Costco Panama. And I thought, okay, this is really exciting. What this will do is allow prior to that, 5,000 TEU ships were the largest ship that could transit the canal. The new locks that have just been built can handle ships up to 14,000, so 3 times the size. And I think a lot of us thought, okay, this is great. Bigger ships will come. We don't know how long it will take. Well, just 4 days later, the first 10,000 TEU ship transited the canal. And it was bound for New York, Norfolk, and Savannah. We have seen, since July 1st through the end of August, a 43% increase in Neo-Panamax vessel calls. This is incredible, and the trend continues to go in that direction. So at the end of the day, 10,000 TEU ships are now the largest ships calling the East Coast. And you can be big ship ready, big ship capable. But we, the ports, don't decide where the big ships go. Our customers do. And I'm telling you right now, our customers are telling us, we are a gateway port. Let's hear it, folks. We have had 14 10,000 TEU vessel calls in that short span of time. And you can see where else they're going. And you know, I'm sitting there thinking, where are the gateway ports? I think we all know the answer, okay? And we're really excited about that. And that sets a new strategy for us. What it means, folks, is that there's a new battleground. The dark blue is the area, and you can look at the Southeast, that's the area that the East Coast traditionally handles. But guess what? Now that you have larger ships with more cargo, more critical mass, lower cost, and a better team to do it, the better ports to do it with, customers are going to move more cargo here. And that battleground is our new strategy. And I'm going to talk about it in a little bit, what we're going to do to go plant our flag out there, and that will bring more growth to Georgia. But first, I do need to touch base on the ocean carriers. You may have heard or read that one of our longtime partners, a company called Hanjin, declared bankruptcy just at the beginning of September. And they will cease to exist. And that's very unfortunate. And the ocean carrier industry is in a bit of turmoil right now because they have too many ships. One could argue they're too big and there's too much space, and their rates are so low that they can't sustain them and they're not profitable. So what will happen as we move forward is there will be a consolidation of carriers. It's happening as we speak, and I'll spare you all the details, but we'll see less carriers moving into the future. But I'm here to tell you, at the end of the day, it's probably not a port better positioned to absorb that than Savannah. The largest terminal, all the customers call the same terminal. Regardless of what happens, we're okay. Hanjin did go bankrupt. That cargo will affect us short term, but in the long run, their freight will be absorbed by other carriers and still brought to the Savannah port. And so you can see this chart represents how many vessel calls we have a week. And we are right up there with who? New York, Norfolk, and Savannah. And those are the three gateway ports. Expansion, that battleground. You know, it's interesting. I forgot to mention one thing I was thinking about earlier. Many years ago, early 20th century, what did they say? Go west, young man. And guess what we're going to do? We are going west. But to go west, we need to prepare our facilities to do that. And so on terminal, last year we had that spike of volume in 2015. There were some of the areas on terminal that were tight. Kind of all came together as a team. We said, hey, what areas do we need to shore up? One of those was gate. Well, in the last 1 year, we built a new gate complex, 20% increase in capacity on the gate. Those volumes I shared with you, the 10,400, that record, guess what? Last week, we broke that record every day last week. We are a hair short of 11,000 containers through our gate in 1 day. So we continue to grow. Got a little tight on container storage. We added 48 acres, another 15% increase in empty storage throughout the facility. Our customers have told us, guys, we're going to bring bigger ships to you. We need you to have bigger cranes. We need more yard equipment. What did the GPA do? We stepped up to the plate, board approved, 8 new ship-to-shore cranes. 4 of them arrive in December this year, 4 more December next year, a 36% increase in cranes. 30 container cranes on 1 dock. To put that in perspective, 40 containers an hour, 30 cranes, that's 1,200 containers an hour across our docks. That is unheard of anywhere in these United States of America. RTGs, rubber-tired gantry cranes, a key piece of equipment in the yard. We now have 146, 30 of which, or 41 of which are fully electrified. You could go around the entire Southeast and add up all of the RTGs, and they wouldn't even come close to what we have on our one terminal. I'm going to shift down for a second so I can calm down, go to Colonel's Island, and tell you about what's happening down there. Companies like Kia have come to us and said, folks, we need more space. And we are responding. We have 640 acres of permitted land ready to develop. Today, we're developing 100. And I did tell a little white lie because this Sunday, we're going to ask our board, for 35 acres. So it's really like 65, but I know that Mr. Olgen's going to support us. Round it up on that one. Hopefully I didn't lie, guys. You can't make me a liar up here. It's so exciting. I mean, really, when you think about 640 acres just of expansion, it makes us by far the biggest play on the automobile market. Now we're going to touch upon SHIP. I'm going back 1 second because I didn't get to say this. I want you to look at this now. There is a video that's going to come up, and I just screwed up again, and I'm going to skip that one because I tried twice and it didn't work. There are action shots. It is happening today. We are dredging the entrance channel. And guess what? The entrance channel is 25% complete as we speak today. Round of applause. And I want to recognize Colonel Marvin Griffin and his entire team at the Army Corps of Engineers who continues to drive this project home. And they are staying laser focused on this project. And I'm not going to mention Jamie McCurry because he's been mentioned here every year that I've been here. But I will call out and shout out to Hope Moore on our team who does a wonderful job on this project. Other components and other features of the SHIP deepening are the CSS Georgia, an ironclad vessel that was scuttled not too far off the Savannah city front. That has to be removed from the river in order to deepen the inner harbor. And that's 80% complete. That'll be done and out of the way long before the inner harbor begins. The dike raising. These are berms that have to be raised over in Jasper County where we will store the inner harbor dredge spoils, and that same area will be used to build the base for the future Jasper port. We're really excited about that project for the reason of Jasper. And our two collective boards are working diligently to ensure that Jasper is built by 2030. And we look forward to developing that terminal with our partners in South Carolina. There's two other environmental mitigation projects, the oxygen injection system and water supply development, which you can see are well underway. There's a total of 11 features overall throughout the entire program. So at the end of the day, SHIP is underway. We are excited about it, and it will be done by 2020, and it is not slowing our growth down as we speak. Now, we talked about on-terminal, we talked about the water. Let's go to the roads and the rail. Governor Deal came down a few months ago to celebrate the Jimmy DeLoach opening. I just mentioned earlier we had several new warehouses that are being built on Jimmy DeLoach, minutes from our facility, and it doesn't stop there. Grange Road and Brampton Road will be all completed by 2020. What that means is we have a beltway from Route 16 and 95 that connect us to major throughways, again, in minutes. I have worked in terminals where it could take you an hour to 2 hours to get to a major throughway. So this is a really big deal for us. Governor Deal also announced earlier this year, which this, I'm telling you, is not happening in any other state, a $10 billion freight mobility plan. And that one right there, the last time I'll ask you, is one round of applause for that. This program will address some of the shortcomings that exist on 16 and 95, the interchange. It'll create new truck express lanes, and in Macon, dedicated truck lanes, and deal with some hotspots in Atlanta. And I saw Jay Roberts earlier. The Georgia Department of Transportation is doing an incredible job managing this. They have a ton of energy, and they're plowing ahead. Next steps. So where are we going to go with it? Talked about the Panama Canal, the deeper water. I don't know if that I mentioned it or not, but that Panama Canal brings ships' first port of call to Savannah. First port's very important in our industry. First port and last port of industry. First port, imports. Last port, exports. That may be confusing, but it does make sense. The GPA already has the single largest on-dock rail facility at our terminal. But we're going to take it to a whole nother level. Today, we have 2 rail facilities, the Mason Yard, which you see behind me, with track running through Garden City. We service Norfolk Southern there. We've got the Chatham Yard, where we handle CSX, which crosses Route 25 and has some challenges there. Well, if we're going to go west, and if we're going to tap into that market, we need to upgrade this facility. And I'm here to tell you, we are going to build a mega rail terminal on this facility. And we're going to double the throughput over the next 3 years, throughput capacity. Chatham Yard will be combined with Mason Yard. It will be a state-of-the-art facility, the likes of which does not exist, certainly on the East Coast and maybe in all of North America. And this is going to be a really exciting program for us. And it does 2 things. It allows us to take capacity from 500,000 lifts to 1 million lifts. That is a big deal. Our customers have asked for it, and we're giving it to them. The other thing it does is it allows us to hit certain markets we may not be as effective at today, and we can change all that. We have 2 programs. We have the inland terminals, starting with Port Atlanta, which has been around a long time. We only have 40% of that market, folks. We want to increase that, and we can do that with more capacity on dock. Core Deal Intermodal Services, that team out there has done a phenomenal job, and just recently, Kia announced they will start using that, doubling their throughput annually. Last week, we started construction on the Appalachian Regional Port. Really excited about that, and over the next year and a half, we will build an inland port up in Murray County, Georgia, a place that needs economic development and a place where economic development wants to happen, and we will be able to service that by rail. That's a 7 to 8 hour truck drive today. That's big news. And we'll exploit our 4,700 miles. So that's the Georgia component of it. There's another piece to this, though. If you look at our terminals, 72 hours is about an effective intermodal reach. Today, I talked about Atlanta. You've got Memphis and St. Louis and these others. Guess what we're going to do, folks? With that massive facility, we changed the whole game. We are now going to create the Georgia Ports Authority MidAmerican Ark. And I'm telling you right now, this is a big deal. Our goal is to service Atlanta, Memphis, St. Louis, Chicago, the Ohio Valley on our first port of call, better than any other port on the East Coast for sure, and drive business from the West Coast to the East Coast. We don't do it as well as we could today, but with our new mega facility, with the deep water ships that are coming, and the critical mass, we will be able to build full unit trains on terminal, 10,000-foot unit trains on facility. We can't do that today. We do already have 25 trains a week, and we will continue to have the largest Southeast intermodal transit. So, you guys will receive updates from us moving forward on GPA's MidAmerican Ark. You heard it here first, and 3.5 years from now, we will be bragging about it. It wasn't 3 hours, so that was good. I got 1 slide left, so we did okay. A bright future ahead. I mean, at the end of the day, we talked about 3 kind of pillars. The economic engine that the Georgia Ports Authority is, the fact that we are continuing to prepare for new business, but we need your help outside our gates. We can't build the warehouses. We need folks to come in and do that for us and for the state of Georgia. And then we talked about the Georgia Ports Authority as a southeastern hub, which we already are, and we will continue to grow. We can't make it happen alone, and we know that it takes a lot of teamwork. And I want to just take this moment right now, just bear with me 1 minute as I kind of go through and recognize all the folks that make it happen, and I'm sure I probably missed a few. Team GPA, we talked about them. This group has been incredible for me as a new executive director. They have done everything in their power to make sure that the Georgia Ports is successful. and help me make the right decisions. The Savannah River pilots, they bring in the ships, they depart the ships, they do it in all sorts of weather and all types of seas. Well done, and thank you. The warehouse and distribution, 3PLs, the folks out there that are handling our cargo, without which we won't get the cargo if there's nowhere for it to go. ILA leadership, I touched base on that already. These guys are incredible. I appreciate the heck out of you. Thank you for all your support. And furthermore, they're locals. ILA 1414, ILA 1475, ILA 2046. Let's give them one more round of applause. The Georgia Stevedore Association, ocean carriers, Maersk Line, our largest customers with us here today. Thank you for taking the time to come be with us. Economic development throughout the state. Thank you. Norfolk Southern, CSX, the railroads, Genesee and Wyoming, thank you. Motor carriers. The trucking community are our front-line customer, and they work as hard as anybody in the industry. Thank you. The tugs, Moran and Crescent, these guys are investing in assets so that they can handle the big ships. Yes, I think it was 2 days ago, we had a massive tug arrive from Moran, came up the river, it was an awesome sight. The U.S. Coast Guard, thank you. Customs and Border Protection, thank you. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, thank you. The Propeller Club, who does an incredible job here for us, thank you. And finally, Governor Deal, the legislature, the Georgia Ports Authority Board, thank you very much.